So one of the things preventing them looking at the crisis in the family courts is that we have a political economy that fundamentally cannot do this. And the reason we have that is because we have a policy-making culture who look at mothers and blame them for everything. And actual fact, what the family courts demonstrate is that the function at the core of our political economy, motherhood, which is the labour that can't be abdicated, that's done over and over and over again to reproduce systems, that's done really reliably. And even after 8 years of austerity targeting the same women, if you look, the actual marker to parenting failures is the point at which the state intervenes. And even in the face of austerity, even in the face of what women are being subjected to, have been subjected to, care application figures are not that high. But they are high. And when you see that change in numbers, because you're talking about labour that can't be abdicated, that's about stability, because you're talking about an ever-present risk that doesn't change of predatory behaviour, when that number changes, it means that you've got system failure. And we've had system failure for quite a while because nobody's looking at those numbers. Now, what you're actually talking about in that system failure is that the very, very central function, the function which does that labour, where that labour cannot be abdicated without abuse or neglect, that's where the state has decided to intervene. And that number should be a number that every policymaker, the number of care applications is the number that every policymaker should be looking at and saying, right, that's changing. Why is that changing? Because the one reason that we know it's not changing is a change in the capacity to parent. We know that that labour is reliable, and it's the invisibility of that labour that's going to come out. Now, by the time a situation reaches the family courts, many, many other institutions have already failed. So, before an order is made, you are talking about every institution around that child, education, health, the family, should have been working together. Hello you, hang on. So before you get to a point where public family law is used, you have already been through a point where we have looked at what can be done without those proceedings, and we're looking at multi-agency working. Now, multi-agency working is how institutions link together, and what we've seen through TERF is how women are actually bound by an understanding of principles of safeguarding that have not permeated at this level. And it's here that basic safeguarding is a problem. Because basic safeguarding is actually just another word for professionals working together to make sure that they know what's going on, just in case something, is going on that's not good. But only when they've got an indicator that that's the case. So, by the time you get to public family law, by the time you get to proceedings, there should have been a lot of institutions working together. So you're looking at failure there, down the chain. And then the final institution, the institution that is completely invisible to the family courts, but which the family law was written on the basis of, is our welfare system, our cash transfer system. And the reason that we have family law, the reason that we have domestic abuse systems, is because we had a cash transfer system which allowed female independence. And it's this that is the blind spot. Because our cash transfer system is not shaped from ground up, it's shaped from top down. And what we've had since 2010 is a cash transfer system deliberately seeking to undermine women's ability to meet their responsibilities in the family courts, because welfare economists aren't even aware of those responsibilities, and therefore policymakers are not aware of those responsibilities. And what we see through the word TERF is just which institutions are not aware of those responsibilities. And I'm looking at the fucking Guardian. And I'm looking at the think tanks, and I'm looking at the publications and organisations who have been advising with bogus gender studies, because the fact is, at an elite level, this understanding doesn't exist in gender studies because they're busy with everybody should worship my penis. Welfare economists don't know this, and these systems are like threshing machines, and the one bit of labour that is reliable at the centre of them is mothers. Well, I'm not being funny, you can see the state of me. 2-3 years of this is one thing, 4 or 5 years of it is another. We're now getting on for a decade. So for a decade, the most reliable fucking labour in the country has been starved and undermined and had everything made unstable. And it's that crisis around the family courts which shows A, how significant institutional breakdown is in other institutions, including our justice system, including policy making, but it also shows one other thing, and that's how reliable maternal labour is. This is like one of the most serious crises this country has ever faced. This is millions and millions of women who are actually continuing. And the real crisis here is not the child protection crisis, because we can sort that and we can redefine those institutions, and we're moving to a point ever. The real crisis is that the mechanism in the middle, which is mothers, have been completely invisible and are still being abused by the state. The rape clause has now been in for quite a while, and nobody's objected because we're busy discussing whether or not Ros Cavini and his grooming of fucking students is feminism, and whether Jess Bradley and Amy Challoner demanding safeguard be liquidated. All these systems are linked, and they're linked around these women. And at the core of this is the invisibility of those women, which is what I'm going to talk about next.